Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Network Effect. I'm Amy Henderson, VP of Client Relations at Channelnomics, and I'm so glad you're here. Each episode, we talk with a leader shaping how partnerships, ecosystems, and go to market models actually work in the real world, especially when the channel is under pressure and change is accelerating. Today's guest has become one of the clearest voices advocating for technology advisors at a moment when regulation, consolidation, and operational complexity are all colliding. I'm joined by Bill Power, President of Technology Channel Sales Professionals, or TCSP, the only nonprofit trade association solely dedicated to protecting and advancing telecom and IT advisors. Over the past year, Bill has been highly visible, meeting advisors on the ground at events like Avant Special Forces Summit and channel partners while continuing to represent the advisor community in Washington and across the industry. I'm looking forward to hearing more from him, so let's welcome Bill to the Network Effect. Why collective influence matters in the advisor channel, and why it matters right now. And when you think about, what TCSP is in 2026, some people think of TCSP primarily as a regulatory watchdog, if you will. If someone asked you today, hey, Bill, what is TCSP in 2026? How would you answer that?
So think about TCSP having four pillars, okay? We advocate, we educate, we elevate, and we curate. So let me talk a little bit about each of those. Advocate's pretty straightforward. That is the watchdog function. So before TCSP was formed, this channel, this industry that we're in, was one of the very few industries in America that didn't have a trade association. We just didn't. And we really got caught by surprise in 2020 when the FCC promulgated some regulations that were really, really detrimental to our business. Some advisors lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in commissions over this rule. And a part of that process, the FCC stated in the public record that it did not think that agents brought much value to the equation, and the fact that they wanted to harmonize the regulations across a bunch of different programs to make it such that we could not get paid. And so that's very, very, very worrisome. That was the reason that TCSP got started, and that still is a falls under that advocacy pillar. But there are other rules that come out, other laws, other congressional action, other regulatory action, that unless we have a seat at the table and early on are speaking into the process, we'll find ourselves in the same situation, having a law or regulation passed that really hurts us, and we had nothing, no way of influencing it. So that's the advocate pillar. The educate pillar, we find that there are lots and lots and lots of providers out there that really don't understand our channel. When they talk about channel, they're talking about wholesale or VAR or resale or something like that. They're not talking about the advisor channel. And we're finding that many, many, many new channel chiefs are coming into this industry and they don't know what we're all about. They think about channel, they think about wholesale, they think about MSP, they think about VAR. They don't think about us as an extension of their direct sales force. And so we have a huge effort underway to educate the providers on the value of the advisor channel. When we look at how we stack up against direct sales, in every measure, we are more economical to the providers than are the direct sellers. Channelnomics did a great study for us a couple of years ago. It was a very qualitative study about what the advisor channel is. We followed that up with another study by the JS Group on the specific economics of the channel, and both of those reports are very, very supportive of this business and how it is not a cost to the providers. It actually brings a lot of return. So that's the educate. A part of that will also be to educate the buying public on if you're going to buy technology, buy it from an advisor. If you're going to buy it from a technology advisor, buy it from a TCSP certified technology advisor. We'll talk about that in a minute. We're also educating the advisor channel. We've just put together a very, very comprehensive marketing toolkit that will be available for free to TCSP advisor members, and they can use it. It's very customizable. It includes videos, it includes podcasts, it includes advertisement, LinkedIn posts, email marketing, just the whole gamut that folks can use to kind of operationalize this value of our business with their customers. So that's really the educate pillar. The elevate pillar, look, it's no secret, Amy, that there are some bad actors in this space. We're aware of it. We've seen reports. We've seen the FBI reports of raiding an advisor's office. We don't want the FBI poking around in our business. I promise you that. So we are proactively rolling out a business practices and ethics certification program. This is something that the providers really want us to do. It's something that the TSDs really want us to do to offer a training program and a testing program and an actual certification badge when somebody completes this training and completes this program that shows that they have taken the time to really go through and put a stake in the sand, a stake in the ground about their ethics and their business practices. So we really feel like that's a huge benefit to the channel. And so we're in a proof of concept right now. We've got about 50 advisors going through this program that we developed, and we'll be getting their feedback and fine tuning it and rolling it out a little bit later in the year. So that's the elevate uh, pillar. Now, the last pillar is what I call curate. So we are curating meaningful member benefit programs. So things that advisors are buying to run their own business, marketing services, website development, recruiting, backroom systems, and on and on and on and on. Anything that an advisor is buying to consume themselves in running their business, we want to negotiate relationships with the providers of those services at a discount, and we want to bring that to the TCSP membership. So TCSP, yes, it absolutely started out around the FCC rules around rural healthcare, but it is so much more than that now.
Yeah, it sounds like it is just a one-stop shop for the agents to do everything that they need to do, in terms of, getting the education that they need, getting set up for success from a programmatic standpoint, making sure that they stay compliant. I would say that, yes, there are some bad actors out there, but a lot of times folks don't stay compliant because they're missing some areas that they may not even, be sure they need to be looking into. In other words, they may not know how to stay compliant. So it is so great that they can come to you and have those best practices to make sure that they're protected and that they're doing the right thing. I think back to when TCSP was founded, regulatory advocacy, especially around rural healthcare commissions and the Universal Service Fund was existential for many advisors. And going back to the Supreme Court's ruling last year in 2025, upholding the constitutionality of the USF was a significant moment. But as we're sitting here in 2026, it's clear the work didn't end there. So when you think about it, how should advisors think about that ruling today? And what are you at TCSP still paying really close attention to?
Great question. So advisors, we'd be out talking about this challenge, this existential threat, as you put it. And I totally agree about that. And those folks that are in the industry that were not really focused on healthcare and subsidized healthcare, it kind of went in one ear and out the other. They really didn't. This doesn't affect me, so I'm really not going to pay much attention to it. And we probably did a poor job at the time of really trying to explain, no, this really can affect you. Remember, I said that in promulgating this regulation and all the commentary that FCC put out explaining the regulations, they stated that that they really felt like advisors, agents, really did not bring value to this equation. They did not bring value to the buying cycle of these healthcare operations. And instead, their view was we were scamming the system. We were advising, if you will, the customers, the healthcare companies, getting paid by them for our consulting services and steering them to a particular provider where we were getting paid. It's not true at all. We weren't running those RFPs. We were responding to those RFPs. But the FCC has that attitude. And again, they've said that they want to make the rules be pretty consistent across all of their programs. That's bad news for us, really bad news for us. We took this, we were part of a coalition that took this to the Supreme Court, not just our issue, but the legality of the FCC establishing taxing under the Universal Service Fund and under universal programs. Congress is the only body constitutionally empowered to establish taxes, not a regulatory agency. So this went all the way to the Supreme Court, and we argued in favor of abolishing the Universal Service Fund and throwing it back to Congress and rebuilding it in a way that worked. And I can talk about this all day long. I don't want to bore the audience on this topic. But we are still heavily involved in it. There is a Universal Service Fund working group that consists of folks from both the House and the Congress. We have participated in some of their inquiries. We've lobbied that group to understand what our issue is. Our issue is very narrow, but it is very critical to us. And so we've been at this fight for now 6 years. It's 2026. It started in 2025, and we're not giving it up. It's not the only thing we're doing, but we are still fighting the fight.
All right. So, Bill, when you think about it from urgency to oversight, TCSP's go forward advocacy strategy, how does TCSP's role evolve now from fighting an immediate threat to providing long term oversight and influence, particularly for advisors working with schools, libraries, healthcare organizations, or public sector clients?
Yeah, so I mean, we're going to continue to fight the fight. Most of that programming falls under the jurisdiction of the Federal Communications Commission. So the FCC is in a bit of a flux right now. With the change of administrations, there's always a change in those oversight bodies, and then that filters down to the various bureaus. The Wireline Bureau within the FCC is the one that we care about for this program, for these programs. So we're continuing to communicate with those folks, continuing to lobby them. But our efforts really, the folks within the Wireline Bureau have pretty much stated their position, and we're clear about that. And we don't feel like we'll really be very successful in getting them to change their minds. We have to put external pressure, and so that's why we're really focused on this congressional work group now. And we will continue to really lobby that group very, very hard.
Yeah. Well, it leads me to my next question. In terms of what you're hearing out there when you're in the field, you've been spending a lot of time with advisors in person, especially at events like Avant Special Forces Summit. So when people pull Bill Power aside for a cup of coffee, what are some top concerns you're hearing most often? And as a follow-up question to that, where do you think advisors are actually doing better or are being more resilient than they may realize?
It's very interesting. So I'll answer the second question first. My view, this is probably one of the most kept secrets. This industry is one of the best kept secrets in the world, right? This is a beautiful, beautiful industry. So I have a very, very small agency myself. I just do friends and family work, But here I am having a wonderful conversation with you, and I'm making money on that agency. My, brothers and sisters in the industry, regardless of what they're doing, they're making money off of their residual income stream. So, again, I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful business. And as long as we know this much more than our customers, we're the experts. And it doesn't really matter what the customer is buying. We have, by virtue of our business models, we don't have a lot of capex required to build platforms and build, machines that are offering the services. We're consulting and advising, understanding what the customer's needs are, and then presenting them with solutions from our portfolio. I started out my agency in 1991. We were reselling long distance service. This was before 800 number portability. It was before local number portability. It was before the internet, for crying out loud. We were just reselling long distance services. But then as other technology came on board, right? When toll-free numbers were portable, we started selling that. When local numbers became portable and the whole CLEC world uh, exploded in the in 2000 in the late 90s, we started to sell that. When conference calling services were really in demand, when customers expressed demand, we started selling that, and so on and so on and so on and so on to today, a very, very sophisticated portfolio of solutions that we have, right? Um, and tomorrow, who knows? I mean, 10 years ago, would we have thought that AI was going to be the buzz that it is today? Yeah, I mean, we're still trying to figure out how to monetize that, but we'll figure that out. And customers, every customer, every advisor I talk with now, one of the questions I ask is, what are you hearing from your customers and prospects? First thing out of their mouths is AI. They want to talk AI. They don't even know what AI stands for sometimes, but they want it because their board or their CEO has told them they need to have it. So the customers are trying to wrap their heads around. We can be of great value in Sherpaing those decisions, right? And who's to say 2 years from now what the new thing is going to be that's out there that customers, small business, mid-sized enterprise, want and need. And all we have to do is keep up with what that demand is and make sure that we have a way of representing that demand and have a talk track. We don't have to be the experts. We darn sure better have some experts at our disposal. We just have to talk the process and build a relationship and bring those solutions providers into the equation. So to me, it doesn't matter. I mean, I'll be a little bit facetious here, but we have a machine to sell things. We can sell other stuff. We can sell what I call socks in the lobby. Okay, we've got a lobby where we're selling things. Customers need socks, so let's sell them socks. Now I'm being a little facetious, but you kind of get the point there. As long as we are aware of what the customer's demands and needs are and where their interest is, if we invest a little bit of time at becoming proficient in understanding and talking about that, the sky's the limit. We'll be around forever. I often say that the advisor world, the agent world, is the stable part of this market. How many owners of advisors have you seen changing jobs? It doesn't happen. Yeah, they'll sell out, but they're in their business forever. How many channel managers at tier one providers stay for a year and then go somewhere else? How many channel chiefs are moving in and out of roles? We are the stable force in this business.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard a stat. Well, we hear it repeatedly that the average life cycle of a channel chief is about 23 to 25 months. And I think even less so for a channel manager or a channel director because they move around and a lot of it is navigating technology that comes up so fast, and who knows what these first graders or that you're with today are going to be inventing in 16 to 20 years. You never know, right? And how the selling landscape has changed, and so having agents to really help navigate that is huge. And obviously, you mentioned, understanding a need, and the sell of things, right? And we all know that, within sales, there is an ROI component that's always associated when anyone tries to invest, right? And so when you think about how ROI has changed, why TCSP is more than insurance, right? You've been very direct in your messaging that TCSP membership can cost less than a single missed commission, right? And yet have a meaningful impact on how an agency operates. So, in 2026, how do you define ROI for a typical TCSP member?
That's a tricky question because there's not a hard ROI. Yes, we've got some member benefit programs that will save them money. And so, yeah, there's a hard return on that investment. But really, what I want to encourage advisors to understand and to embrace is that we are better together. If we are alone, we're going to get picked off, whether it's by a provider and their program or the government or some um, unethical player out there. If we are just trying to go it alone, which our industry is made up of a bunch of type A entrepreneurs that are in this business because they don't want to be accountable to the man, right? And so that attitude is something that we really have to work hard to overcome. This this channel, this industry needs to rally together, to circle the wagons, because there are some existential threats out there. We've talked about a couple of them already today. And so I just really, really think that it's critically important. And yeah, I'm being a little self-serving here because I want TCSP to be that entity that helps rally the industry. But whether it's TCSP or something else, we cannot go it alone. We cannot be cowboys and cowgirls ourselves. We have to be an army.
No, and I can't agree with you more on that. And, just equipping everyone just to come together as a community to build, this army. One of the benefits that I see with joining the TCSP community are things like, helping organizations hire more intentionally, HR support, access to things like group insurance, retirement options, and operational resources that really help these agencies come together, professionalize faster. We talked a little bit about, some of the advantages that these members are taking advantage of, especially from an ensuring compliance standpoint. Are there any other visible wins for members right now that they're taking advantage of from your standpoint?
Yeah, so we're in a constant motion of curating these benefit programs. We have a few in already in the bag now that we're offering to folks. We have others that are being developed. Part of my when I'm talking with folks, one of the questions I ask is, "What are you spending money on?" Because maybe I can go find a solution for that that works better or less costly for you. So we are constantly working that effort. What I hear when I talk to people, they need help finding and recruiting salespeople. Primarily, talking about salespeople, but other talent as well. There's a huge gap in health insurance, and many people are paying so much for health insurance and for lousy health insurance. So we're working hard to conquer that. That is a very, very complex uh, s- uh, environment and situation. If you can imagine, we're essentially taking on the whole healthcare machine, which is a big machine out there. But that's something that we've got some programs in place now. We're working on enhancing those programs. Peer groups is another area that we are offering. It's really not a tangible money saving benefit, but it is certainly a time saving and problem avoidance benefit. Where if you can imagine 10 or 12 individuals, business owners that come together and develop a relationship and meet every month, virtually, meet a couple of times a year in person, they really develop trust among themselves, where they share uh, kind of the dirty problems that they're having. Here's a problem I'm having. I don't know what to do about it. Has anybody else addressed this? And I can guarantee you within that room, somebody has some experience. So those are the kinds of benefit programs that we're offering to the members. I didn't really fully answer your question about ROI, and I would be remiss if I didn't kind of put this out there. So to me, the return is hard to quantify outside of these tangible benefit programs. I don't know how to quantify for you that we've saved we've prevented the FCC from taking some super onerous action. I don't know how to quantify that, but I can tell you the investment we're asking advisors to make is de minimis. If an advisor has under $2 million of top line revenue, we're asking for $300 a year in member dues. If they're $2 to $10 million in top line revenue, we're asking $600 a year. I mean, this is the cost. You sell one broadband circuit, that pays your dues forever. And so it's not a question of money. I refuse to believe that. And we've deliberately established the dues at a level that takes that financial objection off the table.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those are, sometimes it's not always easy to quantify ROI from a financial sense, but that takeaway is so powerful. And so I'm really glad that you addressed that as well. As we're closing in on our time here with only a few minutes left, um, to leave a takeaway, as you're looking ahead in the next 12 to 18 months, if you could set a few priorities or even just one priority for the advisor ecosystem over the next 12 to 18 months, what would that be? And where does TCSP see its greatest responsibility to lead?
So, not to sound like a broken record, but I will. I think the big advice I have for the industry is to rally together. Just rally together. Stand shoulder to shoulder with each other, learn from each other, help each other, because we're all better for it. And I think TCSP, I got a lot of gray hair, little hair I have left. I've kind of been around the block a few times and, made a good living in this business. And I'm very appreciative of it. And I'm really not patting myself on the back with the following, but I've got who knows how much longer, hopefully a few years. But my whole objective now is to leave the industry a little bit better than I found it because it's been so good to me. And if I can have some impact in rallying people together under the banner of TCSP, then I will be able to leave a happy man.
Well, I think that is a great place to leave off, Bill. And we, just so love seeing the work that you're doing over there. One thing that I always like to leave off with at the end of my podcast is we're at the end of the day, we're all human here, right? And as human beings, we all need something practical, something to go back to that really keeps us human, right? Whether that is listening to a podcast or a favorite music or reading a book, something that, either gets our serotonin levels up or helps us take things back to our business and just really thinking about things on a human to human perspective. So, what is something that you're listening to, reading, watching out there that is really helping you stay grounded?
Yeah, so I do a lot of kind of self reflection, a lot of prayer and meditation around that. And one of the things that I was taught early on that I've tested throughout my life and found it to be absolutely true is that whatever it is, it's never about what it seems like it's about. And that's applied to me in my personal life, in relationships, with my children, with my parents, with loved ones. It's applied in my business life, with partners, with employees, with bosses. It's definitely applied in interactions with customers. Whatever that first reaction is, I have to just pause and not react to the reaction and tell myself it's not about what it seems like it's about. Let's dig in and find out what it's really about. Then we can address that.
Great counsel. Just sometimes it's just good to just be still and just think about it and then, deal with it as it comes. So great, great advice. So, well, Bill, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Great conversation. And we'll hope to see you soon in person, my friend.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Huge thanks to Bill Power for joining us today and for sharing such a clear eyed, grounded view of where the advisor community stands today. We talked about what the Supreme Court decision really changed and what it didn't. We explored how TCSP has evolved from a regulatory watchdog into a true operating partner for agencies navigating complexity, consolidation, and scale, and why collective influence may matter more now than at any point in the last decade. If there's one takeaway, it's this: the cost of disengagement is rising. Regulation, talent, margin pressure, and program complexity are no longer abstract. They impact day to day operations, and navigating them alone is getting harder. The silver lining is that the path forward is clearer. As complexity rises, so does the value of shared insight, collective advocacy, and trusted support. Advisors who stay engaged aren't just adapting, they're gaining confidence, leverage, and influence. If you enjoyed today's episode, follow the show, share it with a peer, and leave a review. Thanks for tuning into the Network Effect. We'll see you next time.